everyone, and welcome to the second episode of The Things We Tell. This episode, I sat down with Alicia Sinclair, who recently won XBIZ Businesswoman of the Year for her company Vibe, which is an amazing pleasure product company. So we talk about that. We talk about her history as a sex educator and a sex coach, and how pleasure is your birthright. So join us, join the conversation, and I look forward to hearing all of your comments. It's those personal brags that are so hard, that come so second nature traditionally.
Right, because
to the other gender.
We're not conditioned to be proud of ourselves.
Like, okay, so how do we change that? Like, do we get better at it?
So when I feel that way, I try to acknowledge that I feel that way. And I try to, there's this, I don't know, not to get too like, hippy dippy, but like there's like a thing about like tapping on your heart.
Yes.
And like reminding yourself like, okay, where does that emotion come from?
That's very Matthew McConaughey of you.
Yes. Stop, no, don't say that. No, like where's the closest I can source that?
Yeah.
Right? Did somebody shame me at some point in time for being proud of myself? Where did that emotion come from? And so it's like kind of interesting to like walk yourself through it and then like click like.
You just won an award.
Yes. So I won Businesswoman of the Year.
I love that you just got, congratulations, you just got like super shy even telling me, and I'm like, yay!
I know, because I'm still somewhat, like I'll probably get all red, because I'm still somewhat, like amazed, that many people appreciated me. Yeah. That's a pretty big deal. Like what I think, and I said this to a couple other people and they laughed, but like my small, like strappy little, like one person, and it's not one person, and that's like not fair to say. There's amazing people behind me who have like helped make it happen, but like I did it, like it just feels like so like I was the underdog, I guess is the point.
The term pleasure products, I think is such a really beautiful, elegant,
refreshing
term.
Yeah.
And it took me a minute, like when we first spoke, it took me a minute to wrap my brain around it, and I kept like when I would tell people like, oh, I'm so excited that we're gonna talk, and I and you would send me a product to look at, and I literally would have that like, okay, wait, I want to come up with the right what it is, and it's such a beautiful phrase.
Yeah, and which is still confusing for people. And we look at a lot of analytics like for our own website, so we see what people are searching for, because a lot of that helps us code our wording within our own own website to help bring folks into our online platform. But the word pleasure product is not highly ranked, but the word sex toy is very highly ranked. So it's interesting to see like what the connection is with the consumer and what the connection is with the folks who are perhaps maybe like creating products.
I'm really fascinated by that idea, and also what you found to be when you help people, kind of what you see as you're helping them.
So becoming a sex educator and a sexuality coach for me was part of my journey as a product developer or a person selling pleasure products in the industry. Most people that develop sex toys have absolutely no knowledge whatsoever about the psychology of sexuality, about, folks' bodies, about any of these things. That was something that I wanted to change. I wanted to know how folks' bodies worked, both their physiology and also, there's like the psychology behind it, because what I found is that the majority of issues are in your head. They're not necessarily things with your body, and even things like, say, like rapid ejaculation or, what we call a pre-orgasmic person, a woman that's maybe never experienced an orgasm. All these things come from really what's, maybe stigmas that you've experienced in childhood. Like all these things get ingrained, or like messages that you receive from your parents. And so like really learning about all of those things helped me design better products and market better products and create a better consumer experience.
It's so often that we know, like as sexual beings, that how you feel about someone is tied into your sexuality, or how you feel about yourself is really tied into your enjoyment and your pleasure with the physicality of sex and the mental stimulation that happens. It's not just physical stimulation, but it's mental stimulation, and what does that mean? So I think it's so great to be able to have that dialogue with people.
It'd be really nice if people just understood that pleasure is a birthright. And I'm a little bit stealing that from Good Vibrations, which is an amazing retailer I'm so inspired by. Yeah.
Who stole it from the Jews, because there is seriously, because there is that whole thing where it's considered a mitzvah for a man to give his wife an orgasm.
Right. Pleasure is your birthright. Right.
Pleasure is your birthright. I think that even still, the thing that is so interesting and to let other women know is that even when you feel that way, there are still moments that you come against and you're like, can I do that? Can I had a conversation recently with someone that I was seeing, and we talked about this idea of even someone like me who can be so open and so honest about what I need and what I want, and still has those potential moments where you get shy or insecure or whatever those things that you come from still rear up, or that idea of, even though we're strong and we live in this day and age, that it's like, is my pleasure really important?
I have a lot of anxiety. And as a person that, like, I guess from the outside, like, many folks would consider me very strong and well put together. And I do think I am those things. I can appreciate that I am those things. But there's definitely that little girl inside me. There's definitely that needs to be perfect and look perfect and act perfect and say the right thing and not offend anybody and be nice to everyone and make everyone feel happy and smile all the time. And they're all those things that pull at you. So, I mean, even when you're strong and confident and great and all those things, there's still the moments when, you feel like you can't ask for what you need.
Ironically, the more that we are sort of empowered as women and we find that empowerment, I think that there is this sort of question of, we have our own sexuality with ourselves, which is really special and really important. And
well, okay, so if we're talking about masturbation,
yes, we are. Yes,
I'm a big fan of self-love.
I think it's super important.
If you want to use some softer words, I'm a big fan of that, because I think that whether it's in a body with a penis or a body with a vagina, there's some exploration that needs to happen, and there is. There's a lot to be said about knowing your own body and being able to explore your own body, and in that way be able to explain those needs to another person. And they can be really sexy, like, oh, I love it when you touch me here, or this feels so amazing when you do this. And it doesn't have to be like, I need you to touch me here. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, we can make all requests sound beautiful, like whether they're coming from either party in whatever your sexual dynamic is.
And I believe there's a part of being with another person where if you just listen, you can feel what it is that they want, and if you can be open to what it is that they want, and then that's when the dance is beautiful. Yeah. When you're quiet in that space and you're not, and you can try and get out of your head. That is a hard part, and I'm sure we all go through that. Is like, how do you get out of your head?
Right. So you gain knowledge, you learn about your body, maybe experiment, you give some self-love. You try products, you see what feels good for you, and then you really set the stage, right? Meaning, you light the candles, you find music that both parties are into, and you do things like, turn the lights down. And there's a stigma attached to, like, turning the lights off, like maybe you don't love your body if you have sex in the dark. That's not true. I mean, I think you have sex in whatever way makes you feel best. Like, let's be real. So now touch and feeling become so much more, right? And isn't that what you want? Touch and feeling. And yes, vision is important, and male creatures are super visual. Right. So but you can trade back and forth, right? You can trade back and forth, or both find whatever dynamic. Maybe it's low light, maybe it's candlelight. But I guess the point is to really, if you want to get out of your head, it's to find the dynamic that feels most connected to you, whatever that is. Is it a bed? Is it a couch? Is it a hotel room? Is it a chair? What position is it?
Kitchen floor.
Yeah, is it kitchen floor? Good for you. Right. Is it being tied up? Is it like being the person that's like, doing the tying? Is it being the giver, the receiver? Like, and all of those things are just the fun dynamics of sexuality.
When it comes to our bodies, and this goes across the board, I think it is really important to remember that it is all so specific. It is fun and it is enjoyable, but give it its due, and that's okay. And take the time and take the appreciation to do it, and to follow your gut, your feelings, your heart, all of these things, your what feels good, all the different nerve endings, you know, listen to them because they'll tell you what it is that you like and you're entitled to that.
Yeah, and it's different for everybody.
It's different for everybody.
And guess what? Your vagina changes. What you like when you're, you know, in your early 20s might not be what you like when you're in your 40s. And that's okay too.
For me, it was always really interesting to talk to women who hadn't experienced certain things, and to kind of help create a space where they felt like it could be a conversation that they can have, and that it's something that they can learn about, and that it is their birthright to feel these things, and that it's only going to help the other aspects of your life, and that the more that you are open with yourself and your body and what you want, and you're open with your partner, then that lends itself to so many other aspects of empowerment within your own life.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And if you talk about orgasm, you know, as what we say often in like sex education is like release. Like you talk about it as like letting go and like just experiencing like, oh my God, how much stress you relieve, you know?
Absolutely.
Like, so it's like this release, and it's this release of like this moment of like pure ecstasy and like pleasure, right? Like, what do you think about? Like, do you have a thought when you're in that space? It's like this feeling of like utter bliss and
nirvana.
Right, there you go. And so it's like, why you definitely want to experience that, and how you get there is like up to you, and there's a million different ways.
And that's it. It's up to you. It's all about your choices.
It totally is.